I'm not even talking about that. That's compared to the difference between what those beliefs are and what he believes. It's a tempest in a teapot. Now, I said, what do you do with that? And he said he believes in the anytime coming of the Lord, but he can't. Because if he does, it undermines his entire argument. I'll just read. Once again, this problem was created because of their failure to recognize that Jesus and his apostles refer to the coming of judgment of Jerusalem and judgment as the coming of the Lord. This does not do away with the resurrection of the Lord and at the last day. The failure to recognize the difference in these two events has created much confusion which currently exists. And he quotes Hebrews 10:25, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another so much more as you see the day approaching. He writes, notice this verse, as you see the day approaching. This is a reference to those who heard him and not to those who are still 7,000 years away. Hebrews 10:37, yet a little time, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry. He said it's not much longer, and he's coming. Was he wrong? I don't think so. Okay, do you see how he's arguing? This is how he argues. That the present tense use of the word you must demand that coming of the Lord was 70 AD. But here in this text, he argues just the opposite. That Paul could write, we which are alive and remain, and could mean any generation. And so what he's done, that's why I say he can't believe in the imminency. So when he criticizes for imminency, he's deconstructed his entire system. So, Hebrews 10:25, the argument that it must refer to the destruction of Jerusalem, it's undermined. Hebrews 10:37, the claim that it must of necessity be fulfilled in the first century, destroyed. His claim about Revelation, that it must take place in the first century because he says, which must shortly come to pass. And he writes, he didn't say this was going to happen in 2003. His whole argument goes up in smoke. And there's another reason. Well, and I'll leave it at that. Let me say a nice thing or two before I close my session. I do believe that Brother Larry Smith is my brother. I do thank him for what he's done in the Bible studies in the past. I've been to his church. It's a good church. He's a nice man. I'm not personally attacking him. And I also appreciate the fact that he would come here and respond to what I would say. I think it's important that if I'm misrepresenting him, that he's able to clarify that. I think it's important that he has his say, and I think that's why a symposium like this is important. And I do appreciate him coming, and I thank him for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Norris. We also are very appreciative of both of these men presenting very theologically opposed points of view in a setting like this. It's very interesting, and we should feel it as a privilege. Our next presenter is Reverend Larry Smith from El Campo, Texas. He's been a pastor within the UPCI for over 30 years. He attended college at the University of Arkansas at Monticello, Arkansas. He is the author of 2 Bible studies entitled Rightly Dividing the Word and the Godhead. Both of these 2-day Bible studies have been used to win souls worldwide and have been translated into several different languages. He is also the author of the prophecy book, The Coming of the Lord, The Last Days and the End of the World. Reverend Smith is the founder of Rightly Dividing the Word Ministries and publishes a quarterly newsletter of the same title. Through this ministry, he also produces audio and video teaching series whose primary focus is apostolic truths. Reverend Smith is known for his strong command of the Scriptures and his anointed preaching. Please join and welcome me, Reverend Smith.
Thank you. And as you can see, that Brother Norris ran out of time. There's no way either one of us have the proper time to cover this subject. That's why I recommend you to get the papers, our responses, his writing, my response, which is 50-page response to his writing. That's the only way you'll ever get the real picture of this thing, not in this short session. And also, that's why I'm producing a 10-tape series on Right Divine the Word of Prophecy that's 2 hours each. And it's 20 hours of instruction where I go into each one of these subjects individually, and so people can get them, see what I'm truly saying. Now, to me, what goes on here, when Brother Norris called me, I looked at a book someone shared with me about the Earthly Graduate School Symposium. I read it, was so respectful, and I said, well, the one thing, when we do this, I just don't want personal slurs. I don't want personal attacks. I want us to get up and discuss Scripture only, or else I'm not interested. This is really important to me because, I'm doing this because I'm sharing what I feel God has shown me and others. And I feel there's something that we need to take a look at. I'm not doing this to attack any brother. I have never attacked a brother. I was a little disappointed in Brother Norris's paper. He tried to correct some of it in his speech, but in his paper you will see that I feel he misrepresented me. And that's the reason I said in my book, you want to know what a man believes, you must get what he is saying. Because if you get my book and my papers, you won't recognize what I'm teaching with what he just said. It seems like it's impossible for a man to talk about what somebody else believes that doesn't believe it and properly represent it. And so this is why I say that. Now, let me just say this. Best way to approach this, because he brought up some things here. He read some things that were prophecies that you'll never find in any of my public teachings. Prophecies that I shared with him just individually. I had no idea he was going to come and present them, but he has that right, I guess. He read the latter part of that prophecy, but if he read the first part, it talks about how God has called me and others. See, he has made a point to try to make the brethren believe. Now, his psychology of the entire paper is this: to turn all the brethren off from ever studying what I believe and am teaching, and every man that's teaching like me, by trying to bring me down to make you believe that what I'm teaching is total heresy and not worth looking at. Now, you can do that, but if I'm right, you would be the loser. For instance, the speech by McCarthy, you'll never find that in my public teachings. This prophecies, I can't do anything about what prophets say. You need to talk to the prophet about that. Let's say God's called me, but same prophecy, if you read the top part, says he's called me and others to uproot this system out of the church because God said, I hate it, it's a heresy. Now, if the prophet is wrong, that's your business, not mine. You'll have to call the prophet into question there, not me. But you'll never find me using prophecy in any of my teachings to try to prove what I'm saying. I shared that individually with him. As far as McCarthy's speech, that's what you'll have to decide. The only thing, some of the points in McCarthy's speech I shared in a symposium 2 years before I was given the speech. And as far as me being anti-Semitic, I support the missionary to Israel because he teaches Acts 2:38. See, that's the difference here. Now, what you're going to find in these two teachings is this. You're going to find that Futurist teaching elevates natural Israel and a future kingdom to the Jews. You're going to find historical teaching elevates Jesus Christ and the apostolic church. And we believe that the focus of prophecy took place when the transition of covenants took place in 70, and it took place at Calvary, but the total physical destruction of the old system, which is prophesied from Genesis all the way through Revelation. There was a definite prophecy of the destruction of Jerusalem that began in Genesis. It's all the way through Deuteronomy and goes all the way through the Bible, and you cannot telescope that all the way to the end if you'll take the scriptures and read them for what they're saying. Now, he talks like things that I teach is, I don't believe in eschatology of hope. That's not true. I do teach an eschatology of hope. I bring that out and show the differences in there. Now, he said, I don't know what an imminent coming is. Now, he made the attempt to make many statements in his paper about premillennialism, millennialism. The only place I ever mentioned the millennium, and that's the one he read, was an old tape. When I first came into this years ago, in a private setting in my church, I taught that. Since that time, I backed off of that because there was a lot of places my revelation wasn't complete, and I've since took the stand that I'm just leaving it alone because I don't feel that is really a part of this. As important a part as other things. Now, so all these statements he has in his paper, about you being of the devil if you're premillennial, all those type things, I want you to know those are his statements and not mine. These things where he said that wicked brethren have misrepresented me, I challenge you to find any place in any of my teachings or writings I've ever referred to my brethren as wicked brethren. I have never done that. I don't even believe Brother Norris is a wicked brother. He may misunderstand some things that I'm teaching. He may not fully understand my teachings. But this is the thing that perturb me. I am not accusing anybody of being wicked. I am coming against a system of interpretation that I believe has been handed us. Now, he says nobody believes it. But my position is, you don't believe certain elements of it, but you have been handed a pattern of interpretation that you're following the skeletal system of, just like I did for years. And when I finally searched this thing out, and also there are many brethren in the apostolic movement that have believed this for years before I ever even began to see this. And I do not believe that I'm the only man called to do this. There are many apostolic brethren, hundreds and hundreds of apostolic brethren are preterists today, all over America. And some of them have seen this as high as 30 years ago. So I want you to understand that I do not feel, as he's trying to make it look, that I'm the man called to present this. God did tell me and commission me to be one of the men. Yes, I will not back down from that. I've been called out of meetings. I can't help what prophets do. I've been called out of crowds for 15 years now, pinpointing that God had called me for a certain thing. I didn't even know what it was right then. But I will not back down on teaching against this system that I believe is not correct. So I just want you to understand that many of the things he said at the first was designed just to make me look like I think I'm it. I don't believe I'm it. Now, I was hoping we'd just stick to Scripture, and that's what I want to deal with. Let's deal with this hope coming. He said continually that I mock people that believed in a imminent coming. An imminent coming to me means that the Lord can come anytime. I believe that and my position is, there was a coming in judgment in 70 AD that was a day of the Lord, just like there's been a day of the Lord many times throughout the Old Testament. And the same biblical imagery, when you go into the Old Testament, which he even included in his notes, and I was a little overcome by that because he claimed that I was dealing with clouds, and he said the clouds deal with judgment, and that's exactly what I'm saying in my book. In the Old Testament, there's come against Adumia, that came against Egypt. It was called a day of the Lord. It was a day of the Lord judgment. It was clouds, and it was stars falling out of the sky. The sun was ceasing to shine in the Old Testament. But what really happened? God took another nation's army and judged the nation of Egypt. God took another nation's army and judged the nation of Adumia, because you're dealing with a change of governments. God uses the same biblical imagery in the New Testament to deal with his coming judgments on Jerusalem. He does not ever deter from the hermeneutics that's used in the Old Testament. If you will just stay, and if you'll read my book for itself, that's exactly what I do. I cover the day of the Lord and show that the prophecies in the Old Testament that have already literally been fulfilled have used the same exact language they was using in Matthew 24 and in Luke. And this is what it deals with. But we're dealing with the system that promotes naturalism and an earthly kingdom versus a belief that promotes the apostolic church and Jesus Christ as being God's ultimate plan in the earth. And so therefore,